Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Tonight, we are going to dive back in. We'll call it my bread and butter, my material design and XAML project. There's a bunch of open PRs. There's stuff to review. There's T-unit stuff. And I've had a long day. I was digging trenches and sealing concrete. And yeah, a lot of stuff that did not involve computers and left me tired and sore. So we are going to do that. But first, cool updates. Lots of cool updates. So first of all, Microsoft Build is coming up in a couple of weeks. Specifically, the weekend of May 21st. This is Wednesday, so it's, let's see, May 19th, 20th, and 21st, and then a half day on the 22nd. I think the last session ends around lunchtime is the closing keynote. But more importantly, I will be there. So if you are going to be there, come say hi. If you want to know where to find me, I will actually be a co-presenter on this session. Now, early start? No, I think this is my normal time. I hope so. Honestly, my day's been so messed up, Gridzy. Like it's possible I've just lost my mind. Both are possible today. But I've got I know this says mug, but I filled it with Mountain Dew, so it counts. But I will be a co-presenter on this one, only speaking for a few minutes alongside Justin. But if you were at the Build conference, interested in the Microsoft MVP program, want to know more about what it takes to be an MVP, come and check us out. The other thing is, if people are, let's see, event guide, where's the maps? If people are wanting to find me, most days, I think all 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I have the closing shift in the expert meetup area underneath the .NET Dev Tools area, which is this kind of back corner here. So end of day-ish, we'll call it late afternoon through whatever time they're closing, because it varies depending on the night. Grab me here, or if you just see me in the hall, stop, say hi. I always love talking to people. So if you're going to be at Build, great. If you are not going to be at Build, I still recommend people signing up. There is a huge number of sessions that are going to be live streamed, and the content is exceptional. So this is one of Microsoft's big conferences every year. It has a slight developer bent to it versus Ignite, which is a little more IT bent. But the lines are blurry, so you get a little bit of both at all of them. But this is definitely the developer-oriented one. So if that interests you, sign up, because there is so many sessions. It is going to be difficult to watch them all, and it will be awesome. Unfortunately, the one that I'm at is just a small community one, not recorded. But regardless. Next thing. .NET User Group. So following this, June 3rd, I'm going to have a busy few weeks. It's going to be great. I am speaking at the local .NET User Group. If you want to sign up, it will be streamed out via YouTube, and you are welcome there. I am going to go through kind of the history of C#, kind of focusing on the features and kind of how we got where we are now, with a little bit of looking forward. I'm wanting to bring in C# 14, which releases in November, and you will note that November comes after June. So this is going to be a lot of past, a bit of present, and a peek into the future, because C# is open source, and when we've got preview bits, we can run preview bits. So that'll be exciting. So yes, I am looking forward to it. It is going to be great. I was working on this actually the other day, and the more I look into it, the more excited I get. And I actually learn new things about C# every time I dive into it. Now, they generally are kind of esoteric things that no human being should ever do, but they're still cool. Okay, next, get cracking. There was a pretty cool release. I wasn't sure. I don't know if people realize this. Their roadmap is actually public. And now it's obviously not like zeroed in individual feature type things, but if you are interested in kind of a high level of, hey, what's been recently released and what is forthcoming, like this is all public, and they keep it up to date as they release stuff. So if you're curious where things are looking, like if it seems like I know, hey, these are the features that they're working on, I may have looked at this web page. I know, super secret. It's awesome. But it's kind of cool to see kind of what things are coming and what you can sort of expect. But more importantly, release notes 11.1 dropped. So now this is where it's going to get weird. I get excited about the dumbest features, but there are some cool stuff. So one of my absolute favorite ones. So I didn't know if I was going to like some of the AI things that they were putting in because, like, I'll be honest, I got a little AI'd out with all of the chatbots everywhere. And there was all of this, oh, we'll generate your commit message for you. I'm like, do I really need that? Turns out, yes, I didn't know what I was missing. It is awesome. And more importantly, like the way I've described it to people, the little sparkle with the commit message stuff, it's kind of like having a phone number, right? You need to have one, but now that we have like speed dial and contacts and smartphones, you don't think about them as much. You still need to have one, but it's just kind of it's a detail that's a little less important. So like you still should have a commit message. You still should proofread, but like I'd be lying if I didn't say that I just click that button every time to gen it and move on. And yeah, with some editing. So yes, but the more important thing here is now we have the little sparkle thing on the pull request screen as well, which is great. We'll probably see that here a little bit later tonight, which is going to be awesome. You can also do it with the stashes as well. This is a little bit less interesting. I often do my stash messages just straight in line on the graph. But, you know, if you do it in the same kind of right pane with the commit, so for people who are interested in seeing where that is, right? So if I pick on like material design stuff and I, let's just make some working changes, reset mixed, right? So boom, right? So right up here, if you come in and this is the stash button, most of the time, I don't know if people realize that there's 3 tabs here, right? Most everybody's familiar with the commit and they type at the commit message, right? But you can actually build your stash from here. And this is the new Sparkle, right? So yay, we now have Sparkle there. Huzzah. So it's great. And then a nice side effect of this, if you like my amend commit force push, you can now do it on amending, which is cool, right? And there's all of this stuff here. The really cool thing that's going on behind the scenes here. Now, I will point out some of these AI features do require the higher SKU of Get Kraken Desktop. So just be clear. If you're running on Community, you're not going to see some of these options. So small disclaimer, be aware of that. But Get Kraken AI, you can do bring your own key. So people who are a little more paranoid, hey, I don't want to be sending bits of my code to an AI agent that lives somewhere else. That's scary. My company doesn't allow that, yada, 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 right? We now have our ability to go through and do different providers. We've got OpenAI, Anthropic, Azure. As a Microsoft person, this makes me happy. So you've got Azure AI, Google, and then custom URL. And so custom URL is anything that matches like an OpenAI compatible endpoint. Secretly, if you're like running Olama locally, right? You can, if you've got a system where you're powering this locally, you could theoretically keep it all local. So at some point, I may do a kind of a small video on setting this up, because this, for some people who have the power to run some of those models locally, like usually you're going to get better experience running these big models in the cloud because there's a lot more juice behind them. But I don't know, some people have some awesome little stuff. So if you happen to have your own key, or for whatever reason your company needs you to use their instance, like for example on Azure, just to make sure that it's not being exposed, poof, there you go. Built-in stuff. Otherwise, if you just want the hosted solution, you get the little hosted details. And the other thing to remember is on Get Kraken, the tokens reset weekly, right? It's kind of nice to have it on that faster cadence, because then you just spend them, right? Because they're going to reset at the end of the week anyway, or beginning of the week. I think it's Sunday. I don't remember. It resets sometime between when I clock off Friday, when I clock on Monday, and during the middle of the week, I rarely open the screen. So it's great. Not to say I don't use Get Kraken on the weekend. I absolutely do. I just don't open the screen. Okay, so that's a lot of the new AI stuff, which is awesome, right? Now, the thing that got me way too excited. I got very, very excited over this one. Again, I get excited over the dumbest features. Hide all, show all on the local and remote sections of the left pane. This is awesome. Okay, so I occasionally work because in my day job, I do a lot of consulting. And so I get to see all kinds of stuff from different people's repositories. And occasionally I run into repositories that have an insanely large number of tags, branches, remotes, etc. Right? Like material design, we've got 120 sitting out there. And part of the way I get to 120 is I've got a bunch of remotes added, but I can just right click, hide all. Is that not awesome? Right? And then you can opt into the ones that you want. Because the number of times where I want to opt in rather than opt out is very, very high. Right? And you can do this on the local one. You can do this on the remote one. You can do this down on your tags. Like this hide all is awesome. Right? Not all of them support it because like Cloud Patches doesn't really have a show hide toggle thing there, right? But the ones that actually have the little eyeball in this corner here, right? So if you see the eyeball, you should have the hide show option, which is, right? Love it, love it, love it, love it. Especially if you're working in repos that have huge number of branches or tags. I've noticed just small, like you get a small performance bump when GitKraken's not trying to like render all of those. So just turn off the ones you don't care about. It's wonderful. There is some new avatar stuff. This is one that's always bitten me for a while because it's used Gravatar for a long time, which I love because I set up my profile picture and then poof, it just floats around and follows me. But especially if you connect to like a GitHub Enterprise or regular GitHub where you've set your profile up there, they are starting to add in more avatar support, which is cool. Love it. Honestly, I don't care this much about the Git executable stuff, but this is very helpful for people who go back and forth between like the terminal or some other tool or similar like that. That is definitely helpful. And then the conflict prevention. So if people haven't seen this little guy up here, right, which is kind of cool, this will warn you if you are going to experience a conflict before it actually occurs. And it's decently good. This actually takes it a step further, right? Conflict alerts with your teammates will now work when the current branch has no upstream. So current branch has no upstream, right? Like, let's think about that for a minute. That means you have a local branch that doesn't have a remote branch. You haven't pushed yet, right? That branch is local to you. So it will warn you when that's potentially going to have a conflict, which is pretty slick, right? And then there's extra things here. And then this bump electron v34, huzzah. It might just be me, and I might have some confirmation bias, but GitKraken Desktop feels a little snappier. Again, could be confirmation bias, not entirely sure. It feels nicer for all I know. Right? And then this one here, this one was a big one for me. I kept getting bit by this over and over where the branch labels wouldn't render properly. And I noticed I had to like move my mouse over them in order to get them to show back up again. So if you're experiencing that, upgrade to 11.1. Released on May 6th. So 2 days ago at time of recording. So yeah, so that is GitKraken 11.1. It is awesome. You can always go and watch the video here as well. But if you're reading or listening to this or seeing it now, you're watching a video. So, but you know, they put together some cool graphics and whatnot to go through and show the highlights. But those are the things that excite me the most. Okay, material design and XAML. We got stuff happening. We got a lot of stuff happening. Okay. Here we go. At some point, worst case scenario, we're going to jump all the way into the T-unit stuff. We'll circle back on the dialog host one. Corvin's has gone utterly bonkers. And it looks cool. I'm not going to lie. Looks cool. So we'll we'll circle back and take another look. I've kind of briefly looked some of these things over. Okay, so this one here. Let's take a look. So off-center ripple on pop-up style. When clicking on the pop-up box while it's already open, the ripple effect is slightly off-center. Oh wow! So here's how you can tell when a library is mature. Like, some people look at the number of open issues. Look at the types of issues, though, that are there, right? This is the ripple effect, which I don't know how well it's even coming through on stream, but the little animation that's like the water droplet ripple effect, right? At the point of the click is not centered, right? Now, admittedly, bug, right? No problem calling this a bug. But I think we can probably agree, minor bug, right? It's minor, right? Let's see. The root cause seems more like a side effect of using the ripple in a certain way than an actual bug with the ripple. At least that is my assumption based on the fact that we have special code for offsetting the ripple when there is inner content. See here. Interesting. I think some of this code may even predate me taking over the library. So let's see. In most cases, we don't actually put content inside the ripple, but place it at the same level, on top or below the content. I believe this is a case where that is desired as well. So this PR basically lifts the content control up so it is no longer a child of the ripple, but becomes a sibling instead. And so if we look here with fix, you can see that the animation starts from the middle, even though he's clicking off to the side. Wonderful. There is no bloody way that this thing gets a test, because I don't even know how you would test this. So there's a subtle change here, right? That character, right? That / versus not being here. So you can also kind of get it from the outdentation, right? But I can also tell that this is the ripple control, because there's the closing tag there that doesn't exist on the right. Easy approve. Easy approve. Especially now, I will comment on a couple things. One, because Nikolai is one of the other maintainers on the library, when I see fixes that come in that have the screen grab like this, I usually don't bother to double check his work, because he's one of the other maintainers. If this were an outside contributor, I might actually fire it up and double check it. Because even though the change seems benign, it's one of those changes that could have extra ramifications. But in this case, easy approve. Easy approve. Okay, up, down, base, and we got a PR verification fail. Okay, so let's see. Ooh, update a failing test. Okay, so let's see what the bug is first. Numeric up down not notified, update source mode property changed. That's interesting. Okay. So this is something that's worth knowing about with WPF in general. Let's see. Let's go big. Right, so with bindings have an update source trigger, which effectively says, okay, when the following thing happens, this is when we're going to push the value back to your view model, right? Updating the source. In this case, the view model that it's bound to is the source. It could be bound to something not a view model, but for sake of argument, let's just say source equals view model for this discussion. In most cases, when you do default, the value of default is determined by the property that the binding is being applied to. And if you are a well-behaved property, in general, if the property is something that the user could interact with and modify, think of like the text property of a text box, right? That will, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of binding mode. Scratch that. The update source trigger is which one goes through and does it. Default can be lost focus in some cases, because if the user's, say, in a text box typing, you don't want to necessarily send updates back to your view model on every single key press. And so a lot of them will default to lost focus because that gives decent balance between keeping the view model up to date and deferring it. Sometimes it's like, no, I'm doing extra data validation. People aren't going to be typing Moby Dick into this text box. Let's actually, just validate on every key press, property changed. Or a numeric up down case, switching to property changed is, I assume in this case, the user's wanting to do some validation or similarly. Let's see. When typing with the keyboard, it only updates after focus is lost, regardless of the update source trigger. So not being respected. So what is likely occurring here is we're probably doing something with events, because and by doing something with events, what I mean is we are probably not setting the backing value of this until something like lost focus. So the binding this has no effect, right? I will be shocked if there's anything in the numeric up down that inspects the update source trigger of a binding. Like, possible, unlikely. What's more likely is we're using events to determine when we update this value property. And it should probably be updated a little bit more rapidly. Let's see. I attached what could be a solution, though it's probably not the most efficient, by testing the binding currently on, a patch file. I am impressed. No. Let me grab this a little differently. Boom. So patch files are effectively a text representation of a Git commit. What you can kind of think of them as. Why? Code, why don't you support? Okay, well, VS Code, sit here. Boom. Okay, so let's see. What's the delta here? Okay, so we see some added lines here, white space, curly brace, added line, closing brace. Okay, and then further down, and we'd have to go and look at this source file because these are line number and column offsets to know where things go. This is actually grabbing the binding and then checking the update source trigger. Interesting. Not sure how I feel about that. Not sure. And part of why I'm a little hesitant on this is because somebody could reapply the binding outside. Like, I'm guessing this is in an apply template call. And this assumes the binding's set there initially and is good to go and doesn't get changed, which is probably true for most people, right? Most people are going to be writing something like this, but it's technically possible. It's technically possible for that to occur elsewhere. So let's see. Okay, failing tests while still supporting property changed. Let's see. The up-down base was only subscribed to the lost focus event, but unsubscribing the text changed event. This is a potential event handler link, but also the root cause of the reported issue. This PR ensures only the text change event is subscribed, unsubscribed, and lets the internal binding system handle when to notify the bound property. Excellent, as long as we call set current value. For the most frequent update source trigger, the built-in system will handle the rest for us. I'm quite sure of. Okay, that sounds like the fix I would expect. Let's see, what did Nikolai do here? So, oh, interesting. So this, hopefully I'm not responsible for, but it's possible I did. This always makes me feel weird, right? Text changed event, text boss lost focus method. It just, I was probably lacking Mountain Dew that day. If it was me. Hopefully it wasn't me. I hope it wasn't me. I had a great experience earlier this week where a colleague of mine, we go back and forth quite a bit, and we are not shy about calling each other out. If a bug shows up and we can point to the commit where the other person made the change or approved the PR that made the change, we usually call each other out. A little friendly poking at each other. And Yeah, I was very excited because there was a bug that showed up, and I found the commit where the bug was introduced nearly 18 months ago. I was like, wow, that one sat dormant for a while. That one sat dormant for a while. Okay, so let's take a little gander here. So this is on apply template. This is only renaming the method though. Like, am I missing something? Oh, there's the change here. Right? So it was using the text change, and then this flipped to lost focus in here. Okay, so we should go and look at the failing test. Let's see. So unchanged files. Let's just check the PR out. Okay, you go away. Collapse, pull requests. Let's see here. Up, down, base. Checkout branch. Oh, interesting. So this is good to know. Second. I think there's actually a bug in GitKraken 11.1 if you've set your thing up the way. I'm gonna make a quick note of this. Okay, sorry. Just gotta make sure I appropriately report that. Because the GitKraken folks are great about fixing stuff as long as they know about it. Beauty of people who make software for developers. So for people who are curious what's going on, in my external tools, I have routed my external editor to devenv, which is Visual Studio, so that when I go Control Shift E, it pops the directory for this repo open in Visual Studio. Now it doesn't open the solution file. I got to go double click on that. So it's Control Shift E and then a double click gets me in. So the alternative option is Alt O, opens the directory, then a double click on the solution file. Same number of clicks, but it just feels better to have the double click be in Visual Studio. That way it's one less app, even though it's the same number of functional actions that I'm taking. So, okay. Let's close this sucker up. Ooh, preview 6 is now available. Update on close. Because I cannot resist. Oh, I just realized that's going to update Visual Studio when I close it, because that's what I just told it to do. Huh. Well, that was dumb. Anyway, let's see here. So it was the decimal up-down test. Nope. Decimal up-down test. So let's go take a look at this test, and it's 185. 185. And here's the guy here. So let's just step one, let's verify we can recreate the problem. It should. Like, XAML test is wonderful. Boom, boom. I actually was contemplating the other day an interesting rewrite to XAML test. So there's a number of cases that people run into where, because XAML test there's two functional processes, right? There's the one running your test, and then there's the one running the WPF app with your controls to test. There's communication back and forth over a named pipe, but it has to serialize the objects back and forth that it's talking to. And so there are properties that you just can't edit with XAML test because they aren't serializable. or there's actions that you can't take on the element because you don't actually have the real element inside your test. And I was realizing I left myself a backdoor for that. So if you do something like decimal up down, you can do remote execute. And remote execute allows you to do static void, let's see, do stuff, decimal up down, roll, right? Except for you should spell control correctly and not whatever the heck that is. Up down, there, right? And then you can do stuff, right? And this is a fun little backdoor because what ends up happening is this line executes on your process that's running the unit tests, sends a request over to the WPF app. The WPF app loads up the DLL that holds the unit tests, grabs this method, executes this method, and passes in the object directly. So even though this code is written inside the unit test itself, it's executed by a different process. And in XAML test, if you have the debugger attached to both processes, it's not obvious that that's what's happening. But it made me realize that there might be an interesting opportunity to be able to rewrite XAML test so that everything functionally executes inside of one of these things. It would be an interesting idea. It was just something I was thinking through. I was like, you know what? That could be an interesting way of handling things. Okay, so what is going on here? Increase button click when text is above maximum does not increase value. So where did this thing actually fall over? Which assert did this thing not like? Expected 30, actual 2.5. This is interesting. By doing it on text changed, ooh, that's interesting because we allow the user to temporarily type. Because there is a functional difference between the text of the up-down control and the value of the up-down control. Kind of like in an editable combo box where you can type into it and the text will be one value, but your selected item may not match because you haven't actually picked an item in the dropdown. That's the inspiration for how this is expected to work. It's an editable combo box. This feels like a good test and makes me suspect then that the implementation is the actual problem. Because this changed here to do the text box change. Set current value. Yeah, and then this here, I think is just wrong. Because we would want to set the current value when it parses, but not... I think this coerce back is part of the issue. Okay, so let's go here. Let's go here. What breaks if... So 1, I think that fixes this test. It might not. We might actually need to handle both text change and lost focus. Okay, so that one's working. What breaks? I'm going to take my hands off the mouse for a moment because there's going to be broken stuff. Because this is probably one of the more well-tested controls inside of the library, which is good. That's a timeout. Let me run it one more time. It could be that there's just a timeout. Yeah. Okay. I think I was touching it. Okay, and then this is lost focus when text is invalid. And this is where I think we might just need to handle both. Yeah, so this guy failed and doesn't revert back. All right, so if we look at this test here, this is just a data-driven test with some different values, some that are numeric, some that are all alpha, some that are a mix, which it probably doesn't matter since it's a triparse, but whatever. Okay. And so in this case, we expect it on lost focus because this move keyboard focus is the key line here. So I'm thinking what we probably need to do is on lost focus, still do this. So I think the change is actually, I think both people got almost to the full thing, right? No, Copilot. I said lost focus. Did you not gen the method that you just claimed you were about to gen for me? Really? You're gonna be that kind of dumb? You jerk. You jerk. Okay, so we're gonna do this. This if check is kind of superfluous because how did we get here? But whatever. So when we lose focus, what we want to do is, then that text doesn't matter anymore. And then this goes away. And then that gets cleaned up. And then we need to make sure we unregister it as well. There's kind of a nitpicky thing here, and I'm not going to change it because I think it reads better. But oftentimes there is an idea that you should unregister in the opposite order that you register in. It's one of those kind of patterns that sticks with you around like locking and synchronization stuff. Well, so it's one of those little things. Not a big deal. Okay, let's run these tests because these tests should now pass. Then I think we should add one more test to the to account for the new thing. I'm sorry, what? Which one of you failed? I'm sorry. 2A. Oh, that's interesting. 2A actually parses as 2 because the 2 matched. That is interesting. Interesting. If I put an A in front of that, I bet you it then passes. Yeah. Interesting. I think what we're going to do is we're going to make a separate test. No, actually. So here's a good way of so people run into this a lot, right? They've got a data-driven test and they're like, well, in this case, my expectation is a little different. I actually want it to be 2. And some people will do something like if input text, right, equals 2A, then do 1. Yeah. don't do that. That's bad. Like you want to avoid if conditions and loops inside of your test, right? Your test should be very, very deterministic. A better approach is when you run into a situation where you've got a data-driven test and you need to change behavior or change expectations, do it here, right? Expected text, right? And then 2.5, 2.5, 2, right? So now we've solved part of it. I sort of expect it to fail on the value down below too. I think I need one more. So I think what I'm going to do is I am just going to change this to decimal, change this to expected value, and then say expected value to string, and then change this to be expected value, and then these just switch over to become oh, interesting. You can't. Oh, that's an interesting one. I didn't consider that. So decimals can't be constants. And the reason is because of the size of a decimal. A decimal is 128 bits. And it bothers me that I can get away with this. And I only get away with this because I'm picking values that I don't believe have a floating point problem. So stupid. So stupid. If you were to pick like 1/3, 1/10, things like that, then you run into the floating point rounding problem. But because it's 2.5, we're fine. Okay. So that handles that. But I think what is missing is, I think for this issue, I would like to actually write a test with this so that it reflects appropriately. Now, I think I thought we had some base tests for this, but maybe they were too difficult to implement. But I think this thing warrants a test because I want to capture this, because this is a requirement. No, Copilot, that is not the right issue number. Let's try that again. I want to, and actually let's go and do it on the numeric side just to be even more explicit, because that's what it was reported on. Oh, I didn't realize I grabbed the fact as part of that. Let's see. Public, async task. Oh, Demolix, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Let's see. Up, down, control. One value is equal, disable. No Copilot. When, let's see. Binding, update, trigger, is property changed. It updates on the it updates when the property changes. It updates without before losing focus. There we go. There was a lot of typing. Okay, Copilot, impress me. Nothing? Nothing. Okay. You suck. You suck. That's okay. Now, the question is, Can I validate this without... I think I can validate this without needing to spin a view model on it. Let's see here. So I don't care about value. We're just going to get rid of that for a moment. Let's see. Oh, Chris, don't feel bad about it. I do always appreciate your raids. It is always a welcome change. Okay. Can I get... I can't remember. Get tag works. Okay, so I think we're gonna cheat. We're gonna cheat this. Just didn't see you when I was looking. Now I'm hurt that I'm not in your favorites list right at the top, but that's okay. All good, buddy. Okay, so I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually cheat a little bit, and we are going to bind this thing to itself. Let's see here. I need... Why do I have a $sign here? Oh, because I was putting in values. Ha! Get out of there. Get out of there. Get out of there. Let's see. Relative source. Source self. This is one of the few problems with XAML tests is you have to write XAML by hand inside of a string literal, which requires me to remember syntax and stuff. Let's see, binding value. And then I want to grab... I think what we want to do is, just to make sure that we do this right, I don't know that it's worth doing default and property changed. We could data drive this if we actually cared. I think just a single test to make sure that we've covered it is probably sufficient. LLM should solve this. I thoroughly agree. I want to believe in them. I just don't trust them. I actually saw a post on LinkedIn yesterday where, again, it was somebody. It was like a CEO of some new LLM startup, and I went, okay. I immediately am completely skeptical of everything you're going to say. And the post started with something along the lines of, I would never send my kid to go learn programming. And I'm like, and the argument was, because AI is going to replace programming and blah, blah, blah. It's like, maybe, but no. Like, I kind of feel like it's a little more akin to, we have self-driving cars, therefore I'm not going to send my kid to go learn how to be a mechanic. It's like that sounds like ludicrous, but yet that's the argument that's being made. And I'm like, I don't agree. Like, all you're going to do is lower the amount of people who understand what's going on and ensure that I am employable well past the time where I want to retire, which I appreciate, but that's a horrible thing. Like, you're going to need people who actually understand what's up, right? Like, until the AI can write perfect code and can translate somebody's business requirements into a working solution, I'm not that scared. And the old adage still holds true of, in order for that to actually be a risk to our profession, it would require business people to be able to accurately describe what it is that they want. And they still can't do that. So until we get, like, the LLM's only as good as whatever you send into it. So until they get that, we're pretty safe for a long time. So yeah. Snake oil salesman about how good their snake oil is. Yeah. And that's the thing. And I will say, like, I don't want to knock it too much. Like, there is great value that can be gained from leveraging AI tools. But I think people miss the fact that it's a tool. And that's all that it is. Let's see. Object. Okay, so when property is changed, I'm just trying to decide if we want to type in this box or if we want to... It may be worth typing in the box. Because was that the... how was the bug reported put it in here? Doesn't say, but I'm going to assume. Oh, when typing in with the value with the keyboard. Okay, yeah. Okay, so the reporter was typing, so we are going to simulate their use case exactly. So we don't need the buttons, but we do need the text box. Let's see. So I need the numeric up down. Izzy, welcome. Always good to have you, buddy. Let's see here. And then we're going to grab moving focus, come down here, and then Control A, input text. No, we don't need any of this stuff. All I want to do is type in something like, let's see, I've got a minimum 8. No, 4, because 4 is the first digit of 42. Therefore, that's the right. Oh, it wants an wants an interpolated string. That's funny. That's funny. Okay. Current Kevin is amused by past Kevin's brilliance. Okay. And then we don't need... Wait, am I editing the wrong test? I'm editing the wrong test. Ah. Boy, I love when I do that. It's okay. Kraken, save me. Save me, Kraken. Let's see here. Let's see. I do not wish to edit this test at all. Discard. Thank you. Oops. Undo. There's no undo. Undo. Don't know that undid anything. Hey, yeah. 3 conflicts prevent checkout. Yeah, because that undo is not an undo here. We are currently taking a run at... There was a whole bunch of PRs that got opened on the material design library. We are currently playing with this one. Around the up-down control, not appropriately respecting bindings that have an update source trigger of property changed. So I will say, like, it is very nice that the type of bugs that are coming into this library feel very benign or minimal, but that's just me. Okay, so because the rest of my test looks the same, the diff is all screwed up. Okay, got it. So it just wants this. Let's see. Now it should figure out that that test is separate, and yeah, like, this isn't Kraken's fault, but it's an artifact of how Git does it. Like, it sometimes gets very confused about what things go where, and so it'll sometimes mix up whether it brings in the prior curly, because technically it's the same level of diff. But yeah, I digress. Okay, so assert. That's pretty good. See, Copilot, you did a useful thing. You don't suck as much as I think you do. You even wrote a useful assert message and everything for me. Now, if I'd asked you to write the test, what did you do there to make it do the closing brace? Technically, not a lot. So all I was doing inside of my diff view is I was right-clicking to discard changes, and once I got, because if I go up here and do this, you'll note even in Visual Studio, it's got the green bar all the way up here now. And it's just an artifact of how Git detects where the change starts and ends. Because now there's a blank line here. It goes, oh, blank line to blank line. This is what's added. It's like, well, yes, technically from a text-based standpoint, that is the delta. Oh, and I dropped this. Put that back. But from a logical coding standpoint, no, like, this is not the existing curly brace. This is the existing one. This one's new, but, it gets greedy. And so it does that. So all I did was change the delta so it could figure out which one was the new one. That's all. Cheap tricks. Okay. And then I am noticing that we move keyboard focus. Why did this thing go to a Hang on, I want to look at what this thing failed, but what did the failure number say? Expected to be 4, but got 10. I wonder why it defaults to 10 in this case. Oh, probably because maximum's set first, and so it comes in from the 0. Maybe. I'm surprised it defaults up rather than down. But that's fine. I think all we do is, let's see, modifier keys, control, keys, A, or key A, right? So come in here, select all 4. That should functionally replace it. There we go. What are you unhappy about? Expected to be 4, but got 4. Obviously. Copilot. Bet you it sent it through as a, or I don't think this was a, oh. That was fun. I bet you it sent it through as a string and just didn't know how to handle it. Because I bet you the is int portion is what's failing. Let's double check. Because all we can see from this is that the stringified version of tag works. Oh, and it's over the top. Okay, we're going to do this. Normally I drag it onto a second monitor, but that's boring for everyone else. See if I can get this into a good place. There we go. Tag is string. That's why. Okay. Kill that. So let's just do assert equals, and because at the end of the day, as long as I get the right value through here, so why is my thing convinced that the control key is being held down? Sorry, I'm cycling my keyboard real quick. Oh. I'm an idiot. This is pressing the control key, and it's sending the key down, but never the key up. That's why this one exists. Because if you don't do this, XAML test sends control A down, types 4, and never sends the up. Because until you tell it modifier keys none, it says, well, I assume you wanted me to keep holding the control key down. I'm doing it. Thank you. You're doing what I should probably look at having like an error or something if a test ends and it still has a modifier. Like, it doesn't actually know the length of a test, but it does know it in like this test recorder. So maybe at a minimum, test recorder should report back, hey, by the way, you moron, your control key or shift key or alt key is still being held down. Right. So assert equal, let's see. Stop at. Let's see. Assert equal, and we are just going to assert for the string, and we're just going to do tag to string. All right. So if we get back the string of 4, good enough. Good enough. Okay. So this updated the value on property changed. I feel like I want to do one more. Let's see, and I want to set value equal to 3, just so we can do this. And I want to do lost focus. Is lost focus. It does not update until it loses focus. All right, so we're going to do this. Let's see. So we're going to grab this. And then what's the easiest way to commit? Because we probably should also watch things like key down for enter, because oftentimes the enter key submits focus, but that's a future thing, right? Because there's a number of cases where people start typing and they expect it to work. Like escape is often expected to say, I typed this in, reload from your value, don't take what I typed in. Right? So there may be some arguments to have support for those at some point. And if somebody wants to submit them, I will happily take PRs. For now, we are going to focus on just this. Get it? Focus, lost focus. That was a pun. That was funny. You should be laughing right now. Okay. So some of these sorts of tests I usually do as a behavior-driven design, Gherkin style of test. Okay, Izzy, I need a little explanation. I don't know Gherkin style. I know BDD. I'm gonna Google this on a different screen because I don't know what's gonna come back. We're just gonna. Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's see. Given my unit under test. Yeah. Domain-specific language in behavior-driven development to write a test case in a structured format. Yes. And I think Cucumber is where I've seen this done a lot. There was actually, okay, I'm going to show you something, and I want you to take it with a grain of salt and not ever use it in any serious code base. Okay? I'm gonna prefix it with that. Because I saw something the other day that allows C# to do something very, very bad. Let's see. Hesson, I'll come back to that question in just a second. Okay. So hypothetically, if you wanted your test to look like this, right? You'll note that. There's still the little parens at the end. But you can put spaces in your test names. Now, again, I'm sharing this. I am not recommending this. I am absolutely not recommending this. Okay? Just going to be clear. So, this ideally died laughing. So, Jimmy Bogart, author of like AutoMapper, Mediator, etc., right? He's got several big libraries people probably know him from. But he made a note that in the language spec that it supports Unicode, specifically UTF-16. And there are characters that look a heck of a lot like a space in that. And in the C# spec, when you're doing a method name, there's rules about the first character. You are much more limited in the first character of an identifier than middle characters. Because I've played with this a little bit myself, so I'm familiar with this. But if you're writing a method name and you want it to read like a sentence, and you don't like, the snake case or the camel case or the Pascal case or the kebab case or whatever you're going to do, and you want spaces, all you have to do is do something manipulative with like AutoHotkey or similar to be able to put in fancy characters in your method names, and now your method names can have spaces. The one area that I strongly suspect this breaks down in, and I think he may call it out at the end, Um, I don't know. So the one area I suspect it's more likely problematic in is something like GitHub Actions or DevOps pipeline runners, things where you're running your tests in a terminal that may not have the same level of support, especially character support. Like I've seen Azure DevOps do this where it does, like I have lots of ligatures on my system. Things look great in my terminal. My terminal is set up and I like it. DevOps runs a very dumbed down terminal and does not support all this stuff. And I suspect it may make some of those things look ugly. Like I suspect tooling support for doing this kind of wackiness with Unicode results in some tools drawing like boxes or similar garbage. But again, fun thing there. Hessen, so your question there about why do we allow characters in there? And that was actually a bit of a debate when we first went through and implemented this of should we allow non-numeric characters. It gets slightly part of the reason why we allowed it is laziness. The other part was localization got a little more weird. Because it's kind of like inside of the base control, it's doing a try parse. So at the end of the day, it's going to try parse its way into a numbery thing. And so it's not likely that something weird is going to work, but periods, commas, other separators that may exist in different locales got to be a little more problematic, and we just didn't want to deal with that. And so rather than trying to limit the set of characters that were allowed, because there are things like a mass text box that people have asked for as well that effectively limit the keyboard input to do that kind of thing. So it was a little bit of that, a little bit of laziness. It also does allow it, because in theory, people could write a derived class from this that, say, supported hexadecimal or similar. And it's like, do we want to ban that? Is it likely somebody does it? Probably not. Maybe. So we kind of just punted and said, you know what? Not going to worry about it. Not going to worry about it. That we'll let them type. It also felt nice to have some symmetry with the way an editable combo box works, where it'll let you type in whatever you want, but at the end of the day, if the text doesn't match an item in the list, it goes no. And so the numeric up down is kind of the same way. It'll let you type whatever you want, but at the end of the day, it's not going to set the value unless it actually matches a valid value. Right? Why would you want a variable or method to be a sentence? So in general, you don't. The one exception is in test methods, because I usually tell people my strong preference is that when I read a unit test method, I want to know what is being tested, the conditions under which it's being tested, and the expected outcome. Because when a test starts failing, I need to know, is the test wrong? Is the code wrong? I need to have some context of what is correct. And so oftentimes, because of that, test method names generally get long, right? And I see Izzy calling out SpecFlow, which I believe I looked at one point. Like there's so many out there. I had somebody ask me the other day, what? End of life has been announced? This is news to me. Interesting. Yeah. So sorry, Izzy. I am unlikely to adopt something that's already oh, Wreck and Roll. I need to look at this because I feel like this is hopefully a pun on rickrolling somebody, and that would make me incredibly happy. I might have to look at. Gonna go in my my long backlog of reading Q stuff to take a look at. But yeah, Okay. What was I doing here? So Control A for get the value. And then I want to, how was I moving keyboard focus before? I think what we can do is we can actually just do send keyboard input, and I can just send a tab and call it a day. And we'll just send a tab key, and that'll move it. At some point before 2050, I might get around to updating them. Not wrong. Oh, I messed up. I'm supposed to have another link down here in my little cycling of links. I got a new one. I got a new one. Here, I'll put it in chat. Let's see. Ding, ding, ding. So, oh, hang on. That's the wrong link. That's the wrong link. I'm an idiot. I can't type. There. That one should be right. There we go. So, I am now a Hero Devs affiliate, which is fun. But this may be important to somebody like you, Izzy, as well. Is they offer what they call their never-ending support for a lot of out-of-date frameworks. The key thing here is the idea that it's morphine for a project, not vitamins. So it's trying to keep something going until you either can sunset it or actually have the time or money to upgrade it. Because some people get stuck with various CVEs or other things where it's like, we've got this major security vulnerability. How do we patch it? Well, it's out of support. No one's patching it. Well, somebody is patching it. It's probably them. And specifically, where is their support button? I think, okay, if I just do support, I believe it gives you the list of everything they are building and what exactly they support. And it is, they have quite a bit here, and they usually try to have people contact them because they actually try to look at your dependency chain to make sure they can support all of your dependencies. Where is my notepad? Yeah, I'm going to make another linky thing to put in my cycling of links. So, but if you need it, Izzy, herodevs.kaboo.dev, that drops you on my affiliate link. So if you end up needing them for something, I can also make introductions as well, if that helps anybody along, just as a way of being able to go through and do it. Because again, it's not like it was interesting because I was having a discussion with them around, well, this feels weird, right? Like I generally am the person who's upgrading somebody's solution to be in a supported framework. Why would I recommend this? It's like, well, we don't. The way they put it, they're like, we're not trying to stop anybody from migrating. Like that's the right solution for most products, right? You're either going to sunset it or you're going to bring it forward. You're not usually expected to keep some out of date thing running forever, right? It's just that some people don't have the time or the money. And if you've got an issue, like you got to do something, and they tend to be a lot cheaper than a migration. And they're like, yeah, if somebody migrates and gets off our stuff, that's great. And the reason they can say that is because they know that there's always going to be something else that's now out of support. Like, just because you do a migration once, at some point that thing's going to be out of support again later, and you come right back to it. So it's not a really a big issue. Let's see. So tag before lost focus, and then we're going to do this guy up here. Tag after lost focus, right? And then we're just going to do, let's actually grab all three of these. I think all three of those technically count as what we are testing here. And then let's see, tag before lost focus, we expect to be 3. Actually, you know what? This should be a 2. If we're going to make a 42 joke, we should actually use a 4 and a 2. And then this should be a 4. Right, so tag after lost focus. Useful for some government progress. I believe they're finally moving to Windows ME I remember a long time ago, I heard somebody call Windows ME Windows 98 third edition, and that has stuck in my head ever since, and I love it. Most people I say 98 third edition, and they just look at me like I'm an idiot. It's like, well, like Windows ME came out because Windows 2000 was taking so long, and they wanted something that was a little more like consumery friendly because Windows 2000 was going to be the enterprise version. And then, well, 2000 was stable, and ME was, I think, one of the few versions of Windows that if I left it alone long enough, it would eventually corrupt and delete itself. That just brings so much inspiration. But it did. Windows ME came with a ridiculous amount of UI customization that you could do. Like you could do Lime and all kinds of stuff all over. It was uglier than all get out. Okay, so this failed. Expected 2, actual 4. Surely it was the 4th edition, the partially released version between them. Well, there was Windows 98 SE for 2nd edition. I don't think there was a... Okay, hang on. Windows versions. I'm fairly confident it went 98 SE or 98 SE, and then ME in 2000 came out, like ME came out, I think early 2000, and Windows 2000 came out late 2000. Let's see here. 95. So 98. 98 2nd edition. Windows 2000, Windows ME. Oh, so I got them backwards. Windows 2000 came out first, and then Windows ME came out. Ooh. D-Riz Geek? Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Yeah. So I had those backwards. I'm slightly ashamed to admit it, but one of the first computers that was mine to hack around and play on was a Windows ME computer. Yeah. 2000, yeah, server version or enterprise grade, like that was the target audience for the Windows 2000 era. Like it was because the NT was their new technology, right? Like it was the thing. But like it was also the foundation under which XP got built up because Windows NT was fairly stable and nice, and Windows ME, though pretty, was a hot pile of garbage. Like, and I think like Microsoft had this weird leapfrogging pattern. Like ME was kind of trash, Vista was kind of trash, XP was good, 7 was good, Windows 8 was kind of trash. It was like every other one. And then they started to get a little better here, but it's kind of hard to see if that pattern followed because they changed their versioning scheme. And so it was kind of hard to say what the next version was because you see like Windows, like most people don't know that there's this many Windows 10s. Like they're like, what? Right? Like, and Windows 11. So yeah, it's just, it's weird. I actually had an uncle that I just recently had to get off of a Windows 10 computer. Okay. So expected 2, but got 4. And is my expectation wrong? Should value... Let's see. I tried the Fluent thing in WPF with .NET 9 using the theme mode property. It's broken. My list view, grid view, column header stopped showing. Everything works fine in material design without much modification. Well, thank you, Hiss, and I appreciate that. Yeah, so Microsoft is like the official stance that they have put forward is WPF is not dead. They are still actively maintaining it. Part of why they have to say that is because they have a lot of stuff that's still using it, and like for example, Visual Studio. There are like Visual Studio isn't one thing. Like there's lots of teams touching different areas, but big chunks of it are in WPF, which is why you can do. If anybody wants to have some fun, right? So Snoop, yeah, Visual Studio exactly, Izzy. Like Snoop, you can take Snoop and go whoop, and you can target Visual Studio with Snoop. And once it figures out its thing, right? Come on. Open. Oh, did they change? Oh, there it goes. Oh, now I'm about to get to. Now they're span. So, but you can go through and you can manipulate like it's any other WPF app. Right? Like, so they can't kill it while they've got too much dependencies on it, and they aren't going to rewrite Visual Studio in a day, right? Or even a release. Like they want to bring it forward, but that's going to be a long tail, right? And the other problem is WPF is stable, very stable. It is rare to find bugs in WPF that aren't, and I will clarify, it is rare to find foundational bugs in WPF. There are things with like different Unicode support, different locales. There are known issues in some of those areas. There are known issues with certain graphics card drivers where things don't render right. Like all of those things are potentials, but it's rare to find like fundamental bugs in the main logic because it's been around so long and it's kind of battle tested. So it's yeah. Shame Snoop still has issues with Visual Studio when debugging. Always have to run without debugging to use Snoop with random crashing. Yeah, and I think some of the issue there is Snoop's property window rips through all the properties. And so if you snoop something that has a property that's like, oh, well, if you call the getter on this, it's an invalid op or something, that is where Snoop often brings down crashes or similar. And some of them get handled internally, but Snoop doesn't always know that. And all it knows is unhandled exception. And so I have seen that happen in a number of cases where there are some problems. I really want to submit some PRs to Snoop to have some control over that behavior, to say, hey, maybe let's not query all the properties. Like rather than an opt out, let me opt in for what I care about. That would be kind of my thought. Just to see how it goes. Okay, so I'm thinking that my expectation may be wrong, because on a text change, we expect the value to be updated. But only on lost focus do we expect it to go back the other direction. So my test here is just plain wrong. Though this now feels weird, because this is saying to update the tag. Why does this binding trigger? Oh, because this isn't on the text property, so this is going to functionally not matter. Oh, this is a bad test. This is a bad test. I would need to set this. Let me look. I think I have one. Up down controls, bound numeric up down method. Yeah, good. I think I've got one of these. What are you doing? So this should have the default mode. Update source trigger, lost focus, right? And I believe lost focus and default are the same. No, they are different. Let's see, the binding target, the default value for most dependency property is property changed, while text property has a default of lost focus. So because I am not on a text property, this is no worky. So I would need to explicitly change this to not do that. What is your problem here? Oh, it's because you don't know how to load the data type. Okay. I'm just trying to decide if I give myself a hook in here or similar to be able to toggle this, because I feel like I want to test this. Have a good one, Izzy. Before I have to drive him to London for a school trip because he hates trains. See you next week. See you next week. I think let's give ourselves a hook. Not sure I like it, but I feel bad not having a good test over this. Yeah, so let's grab something akin to this. So we're gonna do rather than that for our range, we're gonna do this. Because that'll get us this guy here. And then set minimax. That's fine. We can do that. I don't know that I care about this button to, well, I do care about the button to focus. But I do also want to grab this value. In fact, we might end up doing move you. I guess we can leave the text box there. It just feels weird. Okay. Let's see. Grab the text box, move the keyboard focus, Control A4. But I need to change the binding on this. So let's do numeric up down. Let's see. Static void set binding to lost focus. Numeric up down. Bring that in. Let's see. Set binding. And then I don't want to set the source, but I do want to set the path. And I want the path to be, what is the binding that we have here? Value. Right? I guess I could just do a name of in here. That'll be sufficient. Let's see, path. Oh. It wants something it can convert, and I will give it that. What am I? Oh, it's a property path. Duh. That takes the string, I believe. Yeah, string path. There we go. Which means I can get rid of the interpolation. For some reason, I thought property path had an implicit conversion. Okay, regardless. Set binding, numeric up down. It's going to be the value property at the binding. Okay, and then we need to apply this. And so we're going to abuse the wonderful thing of remote execution. Set binding to lost focus, so it invokes that. Okay, so that should move it to there. This grabs here. Now I think we can do this same idea of what we were going for. Because we wanted to be able to get value. Value before lost focus. Value after lost focus. Because that gets me there. I can't call get, because value is going to update, right? Because value is still being set, but what should be preventing is going back through here. So let's do this. Static get view model value. Numeric up down. Numeric up down. And then let's do int, I guess. Or does remote execute support return values? Did I do that? That would be really cool if I did. I don't think it does. Oh, it does. I am brilliant. Okay. Past Kevin gets huge points for being totally awesome. Let's see. Bound Come on, bound numeric up down view model. So we'll cast the data context to the view model type, then we will access the value property and return it back. This method gets invoked by the WPF process, which will then serialize it, send it back to the test, all to just do this. So get view model value. Let's see. Value before loss focus gets this. And then this becomes, does it know the type? Or is it all object? It knows the type. Oh, wow. I am. Xcoding, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Okay. I don't know why my IntelliSense is being so bad, but that is neither here nor there. Welcome. Good to have you here. We are having a little bit of fun trying to, well, it's this PR in question that we're playing with. But trying to get, I think we have appropriately fixed the issue. But just trying to make sure that we have a reasonable test for this. Okay, Snoop, you're in the way. Okay, so this is a very convoluted way of going about it, but it should hopefully work. Send it. Are you the builder of material design? I am the current maintainer, if that helps. I am not the original author, but me and a handful of a few other individuals actively maintain and work on it. So, but yes, I am one of them. Some people call me the main lead on it, mostly because I have the most permissions on the repo. Let's see. So, let's see here. What is this? Strings differ. Expected to actual 10. Oh, this is because we did set value to 10. I want the value to be 2, and I want to get rid of that. Let's see. How do you manage relay commands ending up in models instead of view models? Is that okay in MVVM? I use material design a lot on my projects. Great job. Oh, thank you, Xcoding. I appreciate that. It's always good to hear when it works out nicely. I will say it is very much like WPF still has a special place in my heart. It is one of the frameworks I love very dearly. So to answer the question on relay commands, because I assume oftentimes when this question comes up, it's around people wanting to act on, say, EF entities or similar, where their model objects end up having to do. And it really kind of comes down to a conceptual thing of if you have bindable properties and relay commands on an object, is it a model or is it a view model? And so when people say, how do you handle doing relay commands in a model? It's usually the argument for this class constitutes a model comes from the argument that it has some other extra purpose that it serves, like an EF entity or similar. it is perfectly, and I'm going to be careful how I word this. There are kind of tiers in how this works. So if I am building a quick and dirty app that maybe has like a SQLite database or something, I have absolutely no problem binding one of those EF models straight into my UI, maybe slapping some relay commands on it or similar if I need them, and leveraging it that way. That is perfectly fine for the quick and dirty. There is a judgment call to be made, but there is a point where you should probably wrap that object into a view model or copy its data into a view model or similar, because for quick and dirty and small things, totally fine, right? Not a big deal. There are some MVVM purists that will probably be pulling their pitchforks out about now to throw them at me, and that's okay. Because at the end of the day, what's more important is that you ship software that works, not that you adhere to some design pattern perfectly, right? But what I have found in my experience is that there is a point where you start adding so much to your model objects that they become more view model than model. And once you kind of cross that threshold, that's really the point where you should start backing up and questioning if this is really the right object for it. The other thing that often bites is like when you have something that you're serializing some state of your app. So that the user can, relaunch back into their same state or similar, right? They've got a save button in the app and they need to reload their state. Oftentimes I've seen people try to take their view models and serialize those, and that will work, but it often comes with a lot of extra overhead, because now you end up making your view models trying to be serializable, and there's a general principle called persistence ignorance, where it shouldn't your object shouldn't care necessarily how they're saved or how they're reloaded. And oftentimes I've also gone the other way, where if I'm starting to use my view model like a model, like maybe a POCO that is sent to a web API, or like a model that's going to be saved to a database or to disk or similar, that's usually the point where I start going, this feels wrong. And in some cases, when you build out two classes, they feel like you're just duplicating work. And the first version, you probably are. What happens, or at least what I've seen happen, is those two things, the model and the view model, tend to update at different rates. There's oftentimes, I need this extra thing here for my view model because we're adding this new feature in the UI, but I don't really have any changes to the model to support it. Like that's extra stuff. And so they start to slowly get out of sync, which is good, right? They should have distinct differences about them based upon their role and how the app changes. So often what I will tell people is it's totally fine to, if it's the quick and easy way, totally fine to do it. I'm like, the MVVM purists will hate it and say, no, you should absolutely not mix your model and view model stuff in there. That blurs the line and makes it difficult. I think it's worth going through and doing it the quick and dirty way if that's what gets you to ship, and then but being aware that as changes come in, reevaluate whether that initial design should be switched, and you should break apart the view model and model into two separate classes or not, because there will come a point in a lot of cases where it might be easy to just tack it on. Resist that urge. And that's usually why people say, don't even start down that path at the beginning. That's a horrible idea. Why would you encourage somebody to do it? It's like, well, because shipping quality software is the right thing. And sometimes a relay command on my model is easy and it gets me shipping quickly. But if I start adding a lot of stuff, it's like there's wisdom in being able to dial it back. Yeah. Insider Thomas, as an MVVM purist, I agree. Nathaniel did no. So this is not Selenium. So I will show you this. This is XAML test. This is a UI testing library that I built. And I will emphasize that this is not This is not a general purpose, like Selenium is a good UI testing library, though I prefer Playwright in a lot of cases to it. But the problem with a lot of those UI testing libraries is they go through the accessibility API to perform their interactions. The issue I have with that for something like the material design project is this is a theming library. I need more available to me than what the accessibility APIs expose. Like, I want to be able to unit test my style triggers and my brushes and be able to pull that stuff out. And there's just not a good way to do that from the accessibility API. So it's not a general purpose UI testing framework. It lets me test small amounts of XAML in isolation, but for a WPF theming library, that's kind of what I wanted. Because prior to this, you couldn't really test large portions of the library, and you had to rely on opening up the demo app and doing things, and that I'm bad at regression testing unless I have a script in front of me, and so I like to be able to have something of this nature to be able to do. So it is something a little bit different. Why did I hit debug on that? Yeah, no problem. I've seen some people have said that they've taken the XAML test library and used it for other apps, and if it works for you, great. Just know that it was built with one customer in mind, material design, and it works great for that one customer. So I'm happy to make changes and modify it, but most of the things in that library have come about because the material design library needed it, and so I added it. Okay, I think this works a little bit better. So this validates that when the binding is has an update source trigger of lost focus, the view model is not updated until it loses focus. However, the property on the control will update appropriately. Huzzah. Okay, so because I don't think he will hate me too much, I am just going to check this right into Nikolai's branch. Let's see, and then we hit the affectionate AI generate. Let's text update issues was not properly updating the text in the text box when focus was lost after invalid added lost focus to update the text box value, added UI test to verify the values updated. That's not bad. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna send that, and then view pull request, and then this one here. I will go and put. It feels wrong to put my own review on something that I just wrote, but you know what? We're going to put the approve, and we're going to enable auto merge if all the tests pass. Okay. Fix event subscription mismatch. This code is so beautiful, very organized and clean to read. I've never seen this library before, and I can understand what's happening. Congrats. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. There's an old adage in software development that if it was easy to read, it was hard to write. Like, I oftentimes compare it to like somebody's favorite novel, right? Like, you pick up a good book, it's real easy to read. The story just, you get lost in it very easily. It's like, yes, that author probably spent hours, days, months, years potentially putting that together to get it to that stage. So it's there. Occasionally I can be. Past Kevin was an idiot, and he occasionally wrote really clever code that was difficult to read, but and I still do it every now and then, and I very much enjoy it. But it is there's wisdom in being able to go back and forth. I will say, like the material design project, there's been a number of changes that I've rejected just because it would make it more difficult for somebody coming to the library to be able to work on it. And so I think oftentimes open source maintainers forget that. And they're like, well, no, my library is a high level library. I don't want, just everybody being able to come and contribute to it. It's like, really? Like, the only reason this library has survived for as long as it has is because, like, if it relied solely on my time oftentimes gets pulled in so many directions. I get busy. I don't have time to work on it. But I've been able to pick up other people who are willing to come and help and submit PRs and do work on it, simply because I invested time in making it easier for people to be able to contribute to. So I try to organize it that way because I see value in doing so. Okay. How many files are in this? 26. Great. So this is, I wonder, did Corvin say, I wonder if Corvin's ran, there's a PowerShell script that we have. Oh, I used your migrate PS1 script and had a quick glance at the UI, so all the changes should be fine. Okay, I was gonna comment that there's a script to do all of this, but okay. Okay, so this was literally my script doing it. So yeah, and I think initially I had just not done the Material Design 3 app because it made for a nice testing bed to make sure that we supported older apps. But post the last release, I probably should have gone through and done this. So this is just something that was lost to the wind. Yeah, my code gets so obfuscated, even I need to be debugger just to remember what I was thinking. Yes. Yeah, you'll hear me reference past Kevin. It's he is often my worst nemesis. Yeah, this is going to be, why do you show commented out? Oh, interesting. I wonder why we commented out the pop-up box. Not an issue for today, though. Not an issue for today. I'm just kind of spot checking each of these to make sure that the replacements look roughly like what I would expect. Though if it was done with the PowerShell script, it should be perfectly fine. And this is just a demo app after all, but some of these demo apps I intend to distribute with Velopack as well. Just so, because people have often asked for, hey, where can I get a compiled version of the app? And the releases do have it in a zip form. So if people really want just the portable version of it, like that's fine. But I think sometimes people would prefer to have an installable thing. So we'll probably go that route. In fact, if people haven't seen it, I will just point this out. So if you're building a WPF and or desktop app of any kind, regardless of whether it's with C# or not, meet Velopack. Shameless plug, I'm one of the founders, so my opinion is heavily biased. With that said, I think it's awesome. If you want a quick and easy way of building installer updater framework, this is your go-to, right? And I'll point out because we're doing WPF, we've got a bunch of samples. You can see it in the docs as well. But the amount of effort that it takes to add. So step 1, if you want to add it, bring in the NuGet package. And unfortunately, this thing is doing a project reference, but you have to add the Velopack NuGet package. Okay, great. Step 2, reference it inside of your main method. Now in WPF, it gets slightly more interesting because generally your main method is hidden from you. The reason for doing this is Velopack will invoke these callback hooks as part of the like on first run. There's like on new or was it on update, on install. We just renamed the hooks, so I'm having trouble remembering the names. But there's various hooks that will be invoked by the installer. So if you put it past main after it's like an instantiated WPF, those hooks take longer to run because it has to do all the startup stuff. So in general, it's like, nah, just put the hooks as early as possible. So you do have to set up a main method, but there's all the lines. The logger is optional, and the on first run is optional. So Velopack app.build.run, you're done. Then to do updates, there is an update manager class, and the update manager class needs to be fed an update location. So in this case, it's using a A local directory, you can point it at a variety of different update sources. You can host it on GitHub Releases, for example. You can put it out on an Azure Storage account. If you want a hosted solution, stand by. We're about to release one. That way you don't have to think if you just want somebody else to host your updates for you. And then inside of your app, you get to decide when you're going to check for updates, when you're going to download updates, and when you're going to apply the updates, right? So there's 3 methods there. And the apply updates and restart, this is just an extension method over the apply and the restart functions. So if you want to split those across in your app. So inside of your app, you get to decide when those actions occur and what makes sense for you. Because we don't want, like, click once gives you kind of this similar type thing, but it doesn't give you any control over when those things are going. Like, you can either do it before your app launches, on shutdown. It's got like 3 values, but you can't do like custom-y stuff very easily. And so we just like, that's dumb. So, and then you're off to the races. For anybody who may know Velopack by its old name, Cloud Squirrel, CLOWD. The author of Cloud Squirrel, Kaylin, and myself, like, we're the 2 founders of Velopack. So if you're wondering where it came from, you can almost think of Velopack as Cloud Squirrel V3 is another way of looking at it. Though we've done some massive rewrites, so it's not a drop-in replacement for Cloud Squirrel. There is a bit of migration, but thankfully it's short and easy. So if you are interested, the SDK and the tooling and all of that is going to remain free, open source. Have fun, knock yourself out. The hosting solution that we're going to ship, that is going to have paid tiers available to it, because open source software has to find some way to fund itself. But if you want the installer and you want to host it yourself, it is free. It is awesome. Check it out. Okay. This is going to be another easier proof. I realize I probably picked on one of the harder ones to start with. Squash merge, squash merge. And also, if you run into issues with Velopack, do let me know. I will say one of the things to be aware of right now is don't grab the latest release, the 1053. Grab the preview release. There's a handful of bugs that got fixed in the 12.13 preview package. The only reason we haven't kicked a new update is we're trying to get my last PR in. So there's a breaking change around generating MSIs. So if you don't care about MSI stuff on Windows, just like disregard. But if you do care about MSIs, there's an open PR that we are working on fixing, because we wanted to be able to support all user installs and being able to generate MSIs with Wix. So that is forthcoming. If anybody wants to follow along, this is the PR to keep an eye on. But this required a lot of effort, because normally Velopack installs per user, doesn't require UAC elevation, and so getting all of those pieces plumbed in is non-trivial. So, but that one is forthcoming as soon as we can hash out just a few cleanup details. So, but yes, that one is coming as well. Let's see, that one's running. Let's see, fix auto suggest box not setting selected item. Let's see, if I understand correctly, when a value of auto suggest box was selected, the dependency property was not being set. That sounds bad. I'm a little surprised that we didn't catch that sooner, though. Let's see, two-way binding of selected item property does not work with auto. Oh, two-way binding. Okay, see, now that's making a little more sense. Let's see. Your problem is that when selecting an item, it's not being updated. Let's see. Auto select box is not automatically updated with the user selection. So an auto suggest box is very similar to a combo box. in the way that it's expected to work, in that there's kind of a text field, there's a drop down. Let's see. The commit value selection method updates only the control's text, not the selected item. Perhaps the selected item property is not being updated correctly when the user selects an item. I don't think we need evaluation required on this anymore. Let's see. Which turns the commit. The selection event is now updating the selected item property. In the auto suggest box code, there's a commit value selection method that is called when an item is selected, but perhaps this method seems like, hold on, this looks like it was doubled over. Hang on. Let's see here. Perhaps the second use it on is, but then this method. The selection is not being updated. I think it's here. In the auto suggest box code, there's perhaps the method is not updating. You know what? I'm not going to try to do it because I believe. Let's see what Corvin's did. 2 changes. So let's see here. Change the default value of selected item to be binds two-way by default. Then called set current value. Interesting. Should the value property of selected item be two-way by default? I am not sure about that. So let's go and look at what, say, list box does, because, or it's probably selector. Because I am not sure if selected item is expected to be two-way. Is selected. Here, let's do this. No, it's this one. Selected item property. Okay, so selected item property binds two-way by default is the way it's implemented on, say, listbox. Okay, so that all makes sense. And then calls set current value here, commit value selection. Yep, that makes sense. And then let's see here. So auto suggest box loads in the template, pulls the control back out, grabs the pop-up, selection list box, move keyboard focus, send delay. And these delays are only here because of the animations. I have yet to find a good way to deal with knowing when an animation is completed. So it's just like, it's annoying, but I should really set these things up so that I can put a task.delay inside of my interpolated strings, because then I could do all of this in one shot. Let's see. Get selected item is string, banana success. The only thing here is this is calling get selected item. Let's look at this, because I'm wondering if this thing should actually do like what we did before, where it looks at the view model behind it. So let's see, 3847, but we'll just find it here. Let's see. Checkout. Okay. And so this is auto suggest box tests. Unused using at the top, not a big deal. And that's selected item. So what I'm interested in is this user control here. Does this thing have a view model behind it? It absolutely does. It absolutely does. Oh, look at this opportunity to make it use new code. Yay, new code. So the new collection expression stuff is awesome, and I love it, and it is wonderful. What are you suggesting? Primary constructor? Yeah. Yeah, sure, fine. We can primary constructor that. No, that was not the suggestion. There, primary constructor. Bum. But this thing doesn't bind the selected item. It's binding text. Ah, look at that. To do selected item. Almost like it was expected. Almost like it was expected. Okay, we're gonna fix this sucker. Let's see. Observable property. Private, no. Suggestion thing. Selected item. That sounds like a good name. You should be nullable. And then we will come over here. We will get rid of the to do, and we will actually implement. Let's see. We should not do this here because this has display and value member properties set up. We could do it here though. We could absolutely do it here. Let's go here and because you are a set of strings. Let's see. String. Do that. We will auto code you into the new collection initializer, which makes me happy. You want an expression body? Yeah, no. I wish the analyzer was smart enough to realize that it can't expression body this. I mean, I guess it can, but it looks funny. Let's see, we don't need the base call there. Yeah, this one should be fine. Okay, so if we go here, we should be able to go with selected item, binding, selected item. And that should bind two-way by default. And then I think I want to throw away most of the changes on that other one. Let's see, that was with template, right? Yeah. We're going to go here. Actually, I guess we can keep these changes. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just updating newer syntax. That's fine. We'll keep it. We'll keep it. I think we will get rid of the to-do, though, because this is the wrong place, and we're handling it on the other one. So that'll go there. Auto suggest box with collection view. And then if we go back to our tests, we should see, I think if I hunt in here, I'll see something similar. Yeah, great. There's that, and then I think what I want to do, so it's fine to get the selected item this way. And we don't, so this is another area where it's kind of a minor nitpicky thing, right? But you don't need an assert not null and an assert equals, because if selected item were null, null is not equal to bananas. So it doesn't give you much extra. In general, I usually tell people you want as a few asserts as possible to assert whatever condition you're testing on. Right? As few as possible. If you put in too many asserts, what you find is you get into situations where your testing suite becomes very brittle, and it's like, well, you'll hear dev teams say things like, well, we did the work, but now we have to spend another day, updating all of the tests. It's like, it sounds like your test suite needs some some love rather than, your code, because your code will rise to whatever level your tests are at, right? Like your tests are where your kind of minimum bar is. And if you've over asserted, you've actually made your test worse, not better. So it's as much art as it is science, but again, the general guidance is as few as is needed. And that is subjective. So I want to reach across and grab that thing as well. So suggest box. All right, let's go with static void assert view model property auto suggest box. Okay, Copilot, impress me. Boom. Okay, the thing is we're not doing that garbage. We are gonna hard cast. We are not gonna do this as garbage. Okay, and then so we're gonna move this up here. Assert on that, and then we will do suggest box, remote execute, assert view model property. That way it appropriately goes and checks it. Okay. If this passes, we'll just push and approve. This should get it rocking and rolling. Failed. Boy, it's always so annoying. Okay, let's see. Cannot convert stack panel to what? Oh, does this thing have a different root? I should probably look at what the other one did. Oh, it did get element at. Okay. We'll just adjust. We'll just adjust. There. So get element will recursively look down, whereas before it was just calling as, which was attempting a hard cast, which then doesn't work. So I'm assuming in this particular user control, there's a stack panel in the visual tree somewhere. Okay, so expected bananas, but was not. Let's see here. So let me run this one more time because I kind of want to watch what it's doing. That's very fast. Let's just slow this sucker down a little bit so I can look at that. Because the other thing that we typically do is we'll put a wait for on the pop-up or list box. So it types B, sends keyboard enter. Hang on, I want to look at this change again. Commit value. I'm a little surprised that this was all that was needed. It's based on this, right? So send input B. Validate that the elements are found. Which makes sense. I'm just not sure. I don't see anything in this test that's actually selecting it. So I think what we can do is we can actually just do this, right? So we'll do B, and then we'll do key down, key enter, and then do that. We don't need as much of a delay between them because I don't know that we need a delay between the B and the running. Let's check this because this should actually get, because I don't think the other one was actually hitting the commit case. There we go. Okay, so now I think we can do much tighter intervals because I don't think it matters that much. Like I'm not even seeing the animation. I am worried though. This is hitting the down case. Is that the same case as the user's issue? That gives me a bit of pause because I want to make sure we are not, because this does increment selection on down. Collection view, current position, move. So let's the other way we test this. If we don't press enter, does the test fail? Right? There's an idea here that you also should write as little code as possible in your test to get it to pass. Okay, so without the enter, it does just show the drop down. Okay, so we need all of the things. That makes me feel better. I've often dreamed of getting something that does a really good amount of fuzz testing against my library where it attempts to remove things from your tests. Because in theory, if you can delete a line from your test and it doesn't change the output of the test, why was it there? Right? There's a handful of cases where you actually do want to keep it, right? There's some pinning or behavioral level things where it's like, yeah, I want it. But most of the time, if you can delete the line without changing the outcome of the test, you should probably delete the line. Okay, so we added selected item there. Let's just rerun the whole suite of these. Just want to make sure I didn't break anything else in the auto suggest box while we were doing this. I don't think so, because I think Corvin's PR passed the rest of the pipeline, so I think it's fine. Here we go. Okay. And this is the other disadvantage of these tests, is they're kind of slow, because they are functionally UI tests. Oh, there we go. Okay, so let's see. That's fine. That's fine. Got rid of the comment. Updated to latest C#. That's fine. Then we updated the test a little bit. Okay. Now we go here. We go auto code button. Let's see. Add selected item binding to auto suggest box. No, we're not going to. No. Updated UI test to better assert on the desired behavior. Updated some of the test examples to latest C# syntax. And then push it. There we go. And that should then fix auto suggest box. Once again, I feel weird about doing this, but I am going to hit my review on this. Should be fine. Yep. Looks good to me. Submit. And then we are going to come over here and we we are going to enable auto merge, and it is going to be great and awesome and wonderful, and everyone will love it. Okay, or at least I'm going to love it. Okay, so couple things really quick. Let's see here. Okay, so actually, I guess I should go back. So for people who weren't here earlier, if you are at all interested, I will be speaking at a local user group June 3rd, going through the history of C#. Don't worry, this is not going to be a history lesson. This will be much more exciting. But kind of that idea of understanding features, I think, is oftentimes useful to understand how we got them and where they came from. So this is going to be a lot of looking back, a little bit of looking at the present, and a little bit of looking at the future, because I intend to go all the way up through C# 14, which releases in November. So it'll be, because C# is open source, we've got preview bits. We can play around with latest stuff and see what may come. The .NET team will always tell you that they do not commit to a feature until they've shipped it. But we can at least look at what's probably going to land and what they expect to be there, and we'll see. Some of it we may talk to, some of it we may show code. But yeah, it should be good and fun. And then also, if anyone is going to be at the Build Conference, this is Microsoft's developer-focused conference. They do a couple throughout the year, but this is the big one for developer-related stuff. So if you are at all interested in being there, I will be there. I will be in the, if we go event guide and then maps, in the expert meetup section right here. You will find me kind of in this area. I think I've got the closing shifts Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So late afternoon, dinner time-ish. You will find me hanging out there, or if you see me at all just walking around, stop me, say hi. I like talking to people. It'll be great. So I will be there. Also, I will be a co-presenter on this session as well. Unfortunately, this one will not be recorded. Most of the build sessions are recorded and live streamed, so even if you aren't able to go, there's a wealth of knowledge there. It's free to sign up for virtual online, and you get access to all the sessions, or at least all the sessions that are recorded. Some of these, like community ones, are not recorded. But if you are in person, I will be a co-presenter here, just speaking for a few minutes on kind of my history of becoming a Microsoft MVP. But regardless, I realize it's a small one, but darn it, I get to speak at Build, and that makes me excited. So I will be very tickled for this. Also, that means streaming next week, yes. Not streaming the following week, because I will be driving back from the Build conference, and I may get home around the time I would start my stream, but I'm going to be wiped after driving back from Seattle. So no stream in 2 weeks. So for what it is worth. So May 22nd for me. For some of you, that's the 23rd, depending on where in the world you're at, and time zones. Exciting stuff. So with that, thank you everyone for coming and hanging out. I appreciate all the new follows. Always good to see new faces and go through and have some fun getting some coding stuff done. With that, I'll tell everybody happy coding. See y'all next time.